Hello.
Hello.
How's everyone?
Very well.
Okay, this is the inaugural show for Lala and I on Orbis Paranormal. Thank everybody for showing up, and thank you for coming and being such a great group. She's really wanted to do this female experiencer thing, especially with Melinda involved, the world's leading expert. Oh, I'm buttering her up. See, I'm buttering her up. Okay, so Lala, take over.
How about we go clockwise around and just introduce yourselves?
Unfortunately, because I rushed, can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
I rushed here from a restaurant, and so I need to use the powder room real quick. Can I do that?
Yeah. You can cut your camera off, or if you need to, and just take off. It's easy. We're easy.
Okay, Nancy, you want to start?
Sure.
Hang on. My computer froze up. Did you guys hear? Did you guys hear me? If I can use the powder room real quick?
Yes.
Oh, I'm freezing up. That's not good.
You can put her backstage.
I'm going to put you backstage and just take off.
Okay. All right. My name is Nancy Timms. I'm glad to be here. I'm a lifelong experiencer with interdimensional extraterrestrials and positive extraterrestrials, and I'm just so happy to be here.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Leanne. I have orbs like these guys. I write music and I do art, and I guess I would call myself a channeler, but it comes through my hands and through these abstracts from my mind that I share with people. There you go.
Thank you. Carol, ready?
Sorry. Yes, my name is Carol, and I have been an experiencer of paranormal spirits and mediumship since the age of 2 or 3. And then at 11 years old, I had a very profound experience with UFO and drones. So that's basically.
By the way, an orb just passed by you when you were talking.
Yep.
Me?
Yeah, right by you.
Yep.
Well, you mean in my house?
Yeah, it was easy to see. We could see it.
Oh, is it still there?
Okay, now
No, it went.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So,
I have
just so
in my house, and I have ectoplasm in my bedroom. I share a bedroom with a ghost.
if I turned off the virtual screen, you would see them go by us all the time.
Oh, with you mean you're?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So
Hollis?
yeah.
I'm Hollis Polk. I have been talking or listening to my guides since I was probably about 3.5. I've been an experiencer since about 2006.
Thank you. Laura?
Hi, my name's Laura Mormon, and I've been a UFO experiencer since 2001. I've seen multiple UFOs. most often I've got other people with me when I see them, so that's pretty cool.
That's good.
I have been catching orb videos lately. Lala, you totally inspired me to try to get some footage, and I started getting some right away. So that's a new, cool experience. And I've been a student of metaphysics since about 2003, and am very open to all kinds of different experiences, from ETs to past life experiences, and am a lifelong student.
Very cool. Thank you. You want to start?
Sure. So I had 3 NDEs when I was extremely young. My parents were told I was not going to make it, but I made it. And then at 3 years old, I woke up one day and walked into where my mother was entertaining her friend with cigarettes and coffee and gossip. And I started grabbing books off the shelf and reading them to her at 3. By the time I was 10, I had memorized Gray's Anatomy from cover to cover, built a telescope, was a ham radio operator, did all this stuff, went off to college, drove home one weekend in the fall, and then with my girlfriend at the time, and we had an hour and a half of missing time. 2 weeks later, I left that school, changed my majors, went to a technical university in Alabama, Auburn, and got degrees in mathematics, physics, and engineering. And I've been a technical geek ever since. But I had other experiences, including, especially after I visited Chris Bledsoe, the hitchhiker effect climbed on my back and changed my life. So it was very, 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 very different. Let's see. Melinda's back, so let's bring her in. You ready? All right, Melinda, can you hear us?
Can you guys hear me? You saw me. I just put my headset back on.
Yep. So tell us about you.
Oh gosh. What are we just doing? A basic intro?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I'm obviously Melinda Leslie. I live here in Sedona, Arizona. This is my office, and I am owner of UFO sighting tours, where I take people out with military night vision goggles to have UFO sightings every night, and guarantee sightings your money back. We always see them. I've been very involved as a researcher investigator in the field for 35 years, and I'm an abductee. I went public just shy of 35 years ago, probably 33 years ago, and 34, at the request of various researchers in the field. So I've been very public as an abductee. I'm very concerned with abductee and experiencer rights and protections, and I'm going to start doing some work moving forward in that. And I'm also a reader here at the Center for New Age, where I do general life, psychic rings, and mediumship, deceased loved ones. And anyway, so I like I said, I do the tours and I do research and investigations. I don't know, Bob, if you've been following you and Lala, all the stuff I've been out there saying about the current stuff going on out here. Oh my God, the stuff
we will definitely get to
with our underground base, but that can be for later or not at all, because
no. We want you to
play nice tonight and make sure I allow plenty of time for these other lovely ladies. What a pleasure to meet all of you. I look forward to hearing everybody's stories and experiences. So
we definitely want you to do that, but later. And thank you. But before you go, tell us the Abductee movie you were in. The Abductee video.
A couple of them.
Yeah, tell us about them.
Well, about my abductions, not really if I've been anything in depth. I've just been one of many talking heads in some documentaries and stuff. But one of them is Extraordinary, the Seeding, and Extraordinary, the Revelation. So both of those, but a little bit more so in Extraordinary, the Seeding. And from time to time, I've done some other things where I've been interviewed about my experiences.
And the seeding was about the hybridization program.
Yes, it was. That's right.
All right,
that's right. And it was really nice because I was in there because of my own experience with it. Yes, but even more so as a researcher, and I was really honored to be a part of that. I'm very proud of being in that movie. It was very well done. Producers were really good people. Anyways, thank you guys.
That's a good question to ask everybody. I touched on a little bit last time, but the hybridization, what do you think their purpose is for it? And if it does mix with, this is for everybody, if it does mix with government, what is their purpose with it? Are there certain types of people they pick out to do it? I mean, it's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to take all the time, but you know, it runs in families, and so if you're an abductee and you have kids, it happens to them, and it happens to your parents, your grandparents, and same with the hybridization runs in families, and that's a totally different ball game if you're getting into the covert human involvement and the MILAB question, because those guys have an interest in the hybrids as well. So it does come up there. I've worked with many cases that have had both, but and I mean, as far as, you know, people who've had hybrid presentations or hybrid stuff in their ET experiences turn around and also have it in the covert human stuff too. So that's not the primary thing I think the covert guys are interested in, at least in the cases I've worked with. It's more about the technology, you know, and psi abilities, the psi abilities and the technology, more than anything else. But when it comes to ET abductions, hybridization is still number one. I mean, a lot of other things happen. I'll let you guys all add your 2 cents on this, but you know, in the research and in most people's experiences, I still think it's the number one reason for being in that one.
Anybody else?
Well, I believe that that we are being hybridized for our own evolvement. I think that they want us to evolve more. And that I believe the ETs have been around for thousands of years, thousands and thousands since the beginning of time. And they live here too on Earth. And I do think there are factions of the government that are very involved with these ETs. And they do select people to, you know, as such. And that's my belief, because I had an experience with somebody who was an abductee, and I was their witness, where they were, you know, he had a chip or something in him, and they were following him, and he was a lifelong abductee, and they were using him. They were using him as, I think, genetic materials that they needed, even probably to save their own species. That's my take on it.
I agree completely, Carol. And about it, I think the hybridization is ultimately to raise us in consciousness. These beings are very, very off the charts in intelligence and psi abilities, and more abductees feel like they're raising hybrid children, and you start intermingling that genetics with us, and it's going to shift the whole world real quick. And so I think there's a lot of evidence that that's exactly what's going on.
Over the decades too, the messages that experiencers have gotten from the ETs really focus on human evolution, and we need to become more peaceful so that we can be better galactic citizens. Because right now in this 3D world, and I think a lot of the hybridization programs have to do with part of our human evolution is becoming more 4D and 5D. And so that's part of our ascension. That's part of our human ascension. That's part of becoming a galactic citizen. And so I think to some extent our government does know about this. And, you know, there's rumors of treaties that have been going on since 1954, where we exchange human subjects in exchange for technology.
Well, Eisenhower, part of that I heard, you know, Eisenhower. Go ahead.
Well, I am a contactee. I am not an abductee. I am a contactee with interdimensional beings and positive extraterrestrials. What I have been told, and throughout my 63 years, there was a one race of grays. There's many, many different races of grays in many colors, many heights. One race of grays were down here, and they did work with the government, and they did abductions. They were not a part of the collective consciousness with all the grays, because they overstepped the cosmic law. Humans are here on free will, and they overstepped that boundary. And when they did that, they were disassociated from the collective of all the positive extraterrestrials and the interdimensionals. But when humanity started raising their frequency and we started becoming higher consciousness, we sort of radiate, because it grows throughout humanity. And we're going through this right now. It's a huge process. When that started happening, all of the positive extraterrestrials and the interdimensionals started coming into our galaxy, into our solar system, in great numbers, in motherships, and they are surrounded. Many different races. We're not talking just one race. There was just one race of grays out of the many, many different races, and there were some other races involved that what I consider negative, but they're not demonic, but they have no empathy for the human beings or any desire to see us reach our ascension and become better human beings. So, but when the interdimensionals and the positive extraterrestrials saw humanity is ready, they stepped in and they told the lower dimensional grays and the other ones that were hanging around here doing abduction to stop, leave humanity alone. And I've seen video footage of where, back when this happened, it's been several years, when they first started coming here in great numbers, you could see millions of spacecraft leaving our planet. And I've seen it on the ISS feeds, and I've seen visions of it from the interdimensional showing all of them leaving our planet, because they know they were on their last leg, and their time here, their service of what they were doing was over. It is over. They no longer could serve any good, which they weren't really serving good, but they weren't really doing anything bad. But a lot of people misunderstood what was happening. But they are self-serving and only cared about their race. So that's a lot of the reason why our government doesn't trust them, is because they don't care about humanity. They don't care if they scared you. They don't care if you loved your experience or whatever. But and if you look it down and do your research, and I could be wrong, and you're welcome to correct me, but in the last couple of years, you really don't hear about abductions, because they were told to stop doing that. And they are around our planet, spreading it with love and energy, hoping that we will continue on our higher frequency to reach higher consciousness, because as we reach that, most evil things will cease to serve us, and we will not have a need for it anymore.
Well, I want to, Nancy, respect what you just said, but in abduction research, actually, there's no decline. There's an increase in the numbers, and there's many, many different races involved in abductions. There's many different types of grays. It's not one gray type. It's there's easily a top 30 list of typically seen different grays involved, and then there's the reptilians and the Nordics and the insectoids, and it goes on and on. So many beings, and abductions are on the increase. There's no decrease.
I'm not saying it was just grays. I said they were one of the ones that are most well known. There's many different beings and races out in the universe, and there's not just one species of reptilians. There's many different types doing abductions. Is what? Yes, and I've met the reptilians,
and again, the accounts are on the increase, not on the decrease. So, and so, I'm sorry, I just had to say from pure research that the research.
I don't know everything, and I don't pretend to know everything.
Sure, Nancy, I understand.
Yeah, what they told me. And they wanted me to be sure people understood why our first impressions of extraterrestrials is on the fearful side, because everything has been done to keep humanity fearful, to keep us afraid of the benevolent ones that show up, are the ones that are here to do good. But they're the ones that are here to do us good are not here to control. They're not here to take over. They're simply waiting for us to reach higher consciousness and understand that all the things in our life needs to change for the better, be better human beings, and help us with these things and help us with use our technology wisely.
Yeah, we still have a lot of activity, and I occasionally every few months wake up with strange bruises. But I do remember years ago I had a dream that I was in a ship on a metal table, and they did surgery on my lower stomach, but they used their hands, not tools. And it wasn't gory. It was, and I saw it, and they said, "Don't let her see." And it switched scenes to me holding two twin boys about 3 years old. Yeah. And I didn't understand what that meant until I met Bob,
Most things that they do are misunderstood because there is no humanism in what they're a billion years ahead of us. There is no technology. There's no words to compare. They don't use the terminology that we use. They don't use the terminology. Any of these things, they don't, their propulsion, there is no, their craft are conscious living beings. Everything is a conscious living being in our universe and our planet as well.
Yes,
and so,
that truth is Earth is really that way.
Yeah, everything is alive. And that's the main thing they want me to explain to people, that because we're living in the 3D world, we're unable to see certain things, but there's life going on all around us, activity going on all around us, activity in our skies that most people cannot see. But that doesn't mean that it's not there. It is there. They're not hiding from us. They're just waiting for us to reach our higher consciousness and reach higher dimensions. And dimensions are not physical places. It's higher consciousness. And they're waiting for us to start to realize our place in the world and understand the world around us and our place in it.
And I think that's where the hybridization program, I think that's why some ETs are interested in humans and certain bloodlines specifically. I think it could be a path towards human ascension. I think,
I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think that the ones that did that, that was their agenda. That was their task. That wasn't an overall extraterrestrial task. That was one race doing that. So that really is nothing to do with that.
I know that I was aware of a friend who was an abductee, and he had negative experience. He was very fearful, very frightened. He was, from the time he was a child, he was taken in the craft and probed, and, he was exploited, and it was not it wasn't a happy or loving galactical Federation experience for him. It was not good.
They don't probe. Let's think about this. They're billions of years ahead of us, and you think they're going to come down here and hold a probe? No, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah,
their technology is way beyond that kind of stuff. That's human beings trying to instill fear among humanity. That's trying to keep us dumbed down. That is, all these things are done on tension. Everything, our food, our water, our air, all has toxins and chemicals, and fear is the greatest thing that keeps humanity separated. Humanity is supposed to come together and be one and be connected. We are all one and we're all connected. But the fear is what keeps us separated. So we have to understand the misinformation has been out there.
It's not misinformation.
We have to forget it.
I wouldn't call it misinformation because it's people's lived experiences.
I experienced this fear. I was there with him, with the mothership, with the drones that came down, and he was fearful. I don't know I don't understand. This was 54 years ago.
Right.
When this happened. And it was a very scary thing that took place, and a very, it was something out of the blue that happened to me, but I was there with him and another young boy,
Yeah.
and we were, it was the broad daylight. We were actually planning a little festival in a lot, an empty lot, and we were planning, what we were going to do. And this mothership came out of a portal in the sky and came down, and he said, "They're after me, run." In other words, this was a boy that had experienced this and didn't want to talk about it or anything. But yes, do I think he was experimented on? Absolutely. Absolutely.
I just want to jump in and say Whitley Strieber is probably the most famous abductee in the world, and he was the one who came forward and talked about being probed in his book in 1987.
He's also changed his opinion of what happened.
So I don't think that
older.
I don't think that his lived experience is fear-based
Travis
propaganda.
Walton has changed his opinion of what he first said.
If you follow Whitley Strieber's story, his experience has changed over time. His experience has started to become a lot more spiritual.
Most people that have the fear at first, and I was very fearful at times, and I still have to work on when I feel they're coming, and I know they're coming. I start when I feel their presence, I feel it, and there's nothing to compare it to. You have a fear, and that's natural. Every human being has this, but what I have to do is remind myself I've done this before. Fall in through the experience and go with it. But it's not what they look like. It's not what they look like. It is the feeling, the frequency that you feel. We are very low frequency. Their frequency is much higher. The frequency exchange between the human and the extraterrestrial is so strong and so intense. Your mind does not know what to do with these feelings. So naturally you go from fear, from like flight or fright, that's natural. That's just natural.
So you've been an abductee and experienced, right?
Pardon?
You've been an abductee and experienced.
I have never been abducted. I am a contactee for 63 years from birth on, and I have positive contact up until this very day. And tomorrow I have face-to-face contact with interdimensionals and positive extraterrestrials.
Okay. Leanne, tell us about your experiences.
You're muted.
You're muted.
You usually can't get me to stop talking. I grew up in Manhattan in New York City, and my mom thought it was really important that I was, able to be out in something else. So she got this little cottage up in Hudson Valley, and then she made it a bigger house. And I spent a lot of summers and weekends from April, late March through end of October. And then the pipes weren't winterized, so we weren't there in the winter. But from the time I was 4 years old to the time I was about 18, I spent a good chunk of time there. And I've probably suppressed a bunch of stuff, but I have friends who I talk to who used to wake up in their beds with leaves. And as an adult, like what he called the squirrel people would be outside, little heads, big eyes, staring at the edge of his bed. My friend Sam, I talk to him still. My friend Ed and his twin saw a big cube come down. So I don't know, I spent a whole life in the entertainment business and came back here to take care of my mom. And when I got off the merry-go-round, I literally got off the merry-go-round. She would watch CNN and Rachel Maddow, and I'm like, okay, that's going away now. No more news, no more processed sugar. We're changing everything. And then the pandemic happened. And so I start watching Gaia, and I'm thinking, what is this channeling stuff? Wait a minute. But wait, I used to read Seth Speaks when I was 18. So really, this isn't that new to me, like this kind of thinking. And I didn't understand intellectually, but I understood that what I was reading when I was 18 and 19 was right. Like, and I didn't know why. Coming back to it at 54, 55, 56, I'm 58 now. This last 5 years, I've really kind of fast tracked. And I've documented lots of orbs, and my mom had what we called alligator guy here, and she would talk like the doctors, or she's hallucinating. I'm like, no, she's not. Her veil is thinning, and she's actually seeing beings. So I knew differently. And I still say I live in a packed sardine can. Just because I'm 3D doesn't mean there aren't all kinds of other extra multi. They're here. They've always been here. We share the same space, time, space, but we're just all tuned into different frequencies. So the idea that, ooh, we don't know what they are, ooh, like what, this fear, it's really, it's to me very challenging to make it through the fear stuff, like, and
I never felt fear.
How to deprogram this from the collective consciousness is kind of what I'm interested in, which is why I do my drawings. I'm working on this one right now.
Wow.
Very nice.
Awesome.
There's
pretty.
some behind me. Yeah.
That's
Thank
really
you.
pretty.
Thank you. Thank you.
Before we get let Hollis come in, Leanne, were you there during the Hudson Valley Flap?
What year was that?
80s. Call it 80s.
In 1980, then yeah, I was there. I went to California in 1987, so I was up there for all that.
So,
I've had some strange dreams, but I feel like dream time, just because my body's in stasis doesn't mean my consciousness isn't actually going and doing things. I've had like precognitive stuff, so like I said, like I've this last 4 years I've really fast tracked, and I think what I think, I believe what I believe, and I know what I know, and those are 3 different compartments. So like I put a little link to this music video that I did, because I don't know how else to say what I need to say, except to just say it quick and short and put a little candy wrapping on it and send it out.
Yeah, so when Lala and I first got to know each other, she had done a reading of my mother who had just passed. And then she began telling me of her dreams. And I've been in this UFO stuff for a while, and she was telling me UFO abductee experience, UFO contactee experience, UFO in her family's experience every time. And it just took a while for her to kind of, oh, you mean I wasn't crazy and that stuff was real? Hollis, come in and tell us about you.
So here's the thing. I am a contactee, not an abductee. And in fact, I've never met an abductee. Plenty of contactees, but never an abductee. And I only know what people say like second or third hand. And it's like a game of telephone.
Yes, it is.
So I kind of have no opinion about the whole abductee thing. Like, it's not my experience. I'm sure, I hear you and I'm glad to hear you. Like, okay, you actually know people who have had this experience. Good. But I know that people who know people who are abductees talk about wildly different types of experiences.
I think there are wildly different types. I do believe that there are abductees that might really have a wonderful eye-opening experience, and then there are others who had, a particular ET species that was not very empathetic, and
And Carol, it also depends how long they know they are an abductee, how long they've lived with it, have they been in support groups and gotten other help? Because a lot of times people react to it originally traumatically.
Yes.
But the more they live with it, like Whitley, you guys were talking about earlier, his views about it have changed over time, and that's but that's true of most abductees that live with it. So Carol, even your friend, this gentleman you knew, it kind of makes me wonder how long, how old is he? How long has he known? How much self-investigation? Has he been in support groups? Has he gotten regressive hypnosis? All these kind of things, because all those things are going to affect the way someone relates. And if he's in trauma, that suggests to me, from what I know about the research, besides my personal experiences, but from the research, is that that means he's probably pretty new to it. And maybe
he had it when he was all through his childhood. He is now dead, and I do blame his life experience why he died so young.
Into the discovery process.
What is
so
it?
If he was new into the discovery process, if he was new to learning about his experiences, if he was new to self-discovery, because a lot of people act out of trauma first. Whitley's a perfect case in point, since you guys brought him up, of someone who did over time relates to it in a very different way, and he sees it as a very positive experience in his life and very enlightening now. That's very different from when he first started investigating. And that's common. I'm just saying, what I'm saying is, and none of these are absolutes, everything's like this sliding scale of percentages, so I could say that's probably true of, 75 or 80% of abductees. Real quick show of hands for the audience's sake, and also because I want to know. So I'm gonna do this. So first, if you identify more as a contactee, raise your hand. So for the people that identify more as a contactee, okay?
Well, now, when they say contactee, you're talking about.
I'm just giving a very general, general.
But you gotta define contactee where you're actually talking to them.
Okay, hang on. Okay, I'll define. First, I'll start with experiencer. Now, experiencer was a term given to abductees originally, but now it's become general, like someone who's had very in-depth sightings. Maybe they've had a lot of CE5 kind of thing, but they haven't had personal interaction with ETs. So you haven't had personal communication other than with ships and sightings. So how many people would qualify themselves, based upon what I just said, as an experiencer? An experiencer only.
Myself.
Okay. Okay. That was 2. Now, the next question, contactee, which is conscious contact. You get a choice of whether you get to have the experience or not. You can turn it on when you want, turn it off when you not. They approach you. You get to say yes or no. And yet you have conscious memory of communication and involvement with abductees, whether physical or just spiritual. I shouldn't say just. You know what I mean? So under those categories, who would relate more to being a contactee?
Wait a minute. You said with abductees.
Abductee.
No, I meant contactee. Right now, contactee. You've had physical interaction, contact, communication, and it can be of a spiritual nature or psychic nature, or it might mean physical, but you got a choice. You got to say yes and no from the get-go, and they approach you and ask you beforehand for your help. That's contactee. So how many people would say yes to that?
Never. Yeah, I never.
No.
Okay, 2. Okay. Next is the typical abductee. Abductee is someone, and you can have a little bit of all this, but I'm saying, what would you like? I would say I'm all 3. No doubt, or all 4, but I'm just going with predominantly. So just for me and the audience to know. So next is abductee, which means it probably started in childhood. You were taken without really being asked first. It might have intrusive measures that have been involved at any point in your experience. That you've had hybrid children where they've taken ovum, we're women, so they're taking organ case of Bob sperm, if they've taken ovum or sperm from you and shown you hybrids, and they can pick you up at any moment. And yes, you might have a past life agreement, but in this life, maybe you weren't approached consciously and got to make a choice first. So again, I'm just clarifying what abduction typically means. So, okay. So even if you identify in multiple categories, I'm just saying which one predominantly. So going back to abductee, who would say that would apply to them predominantly?
More and more of that. Yeah.
That's 3 of us. Okay. Yeah. So 3 of us. Okay. Now I could raise my hand in every category, but if I had to place one that most defines me, it's the 3rd. And like some of you, it's contact. And then no one, did anyone here say experiencer only, like sightings and conscious sightings, but not communication?
Yes, I've had all my life. I've had major sightings. I have them on film, and I see them all the time in my backyard.
Okay.
Where and so, and I'm an experiencer, but I've never had any alien contact.
Okay. Okay. That's fine. That's fine. Well, and sightings may be because if you're getting a psychic hit beforehand to go out and you go to places known because you feel drawn to, Carol, that makes you a contactee.
Oh, it does.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's,
So
you know,
I'm an experiencer and a
as soon as
contactee.
someone conducts CE5, like if you've made conscious choice to go out and make something happen, and then it does,
Yeah, it does.
that makes you a contactee.
Okay.
Okay.
But
That's only one and
that's
two.
why I try to define that kind of experiencer contactee versus someone who has a more conscious receiving messages and information, which is the next level. And then someone can be, I mean, like I said, I'm all three. But for the clarity of this and for the audience, that's why I said abduction.
I had undefined experiences until I was in my 60s and visited Chris Bledsoe. And since then, it's been conscious, wanted, and welcomed.
So conscious contactee. So you're that.
I mean,
Now,
they,
Bob,
they give me downloads.
do you think they've ever taken sperm from you, or have you had a physical onboard examination or anything like that?
I have not had the full blown regression. I've had the peace, light, and love Deb Shakti regression where I got a past life. I did quantum healing.
Okay.
I haven't had a full regression.
Okay. Well, so that may be yet to be determined with you, or you're just a contactee and not an abductee, which is okay, you know. So the simple answer here is any of the above, anything from sighting to full-blown onboard experience, whatever, it's all contact, right? You know.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to say, for the sake of the audience, and you guys, it's all valid. None of us are invalid or anything for any of that. It's all good. It doesn't make you better or worse to have one or the other or not or whatever. And what's really great is by us coming together and having this discussion, we're bringing incredible clarity to the audience.
Yes.
Not to mention ourselves.
I'm glad you said that because it can be confusing, honestly, sometimes. And a
lot of people out there who are new to the subject get very confused. Like, what's the difference? And they hear things used, you know, like the term experiencer now means anyone who's had a sighting. The people who coined the term experiencer were abductees who hated the negative connotation. So they started calling it experiencer. But over time, that's morphed to mean anyone who's had a sighting. So, you know, I get it. People get confused. But that's, anyways, I think we just brought a great amount of clarity to it. If anyone wants to add or disagree with me or add anything, please jump in.
I have a question. Because I've had paranormal experiences from the time I was 3 years old and visitations at nap time, you know, with ghosts, that kind of thing. I never cared about technology. I never watched Star Trek, for instance. You know, I didn't care about that stuff. I didn't care. And what's so funny is I've been very psychic, very, very. I mean, I've had premonitions of the Challenger. I've had premonitions of 9/11. I knew exactly what was going to happen during that. So I have a psychic bent to, you know, I'm psychic and I've read for people. I do readings and have been doing readings since the time I was 13 or 14. Now, do you think the experience I've had with ETs has given me that ability? I mean, I'm just questioning about that.
Good question.
Good question.
Okay.
It's a chicken or egg question. Which came first, the psychic or the abductee? Or I'll say contactee. I'll just give the general term, you know, because that applies to all of us. So which came first, the psychic or the contactee?
Right.
You know, and does one feed the other? Well, if you think about it, most contact. Oh, I'm getting feedback or something. I guess doesn't matter. Most contact of all kinds tends to start in childhood and often runs in families. Guess what? So does being psychic, right? You know, so is one causing the other? There's maybe no way to know that, you know, because some people, they're psychic kids and then they end up having abduction later or contact, I mean, later, or your contact experiences suddenly awaken your paranormal experiences, because your mind is now stretched and you live in a new paradigm, and
Yeah.
that awakens it. So again, it's maybe there's no way to really know which one came first, but do they go
Okay.
hand in hand? Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'll just say for me, right? I've been psychic since I was a little kid.
Me too.
And it does run in families. When I was a kid, I was telepathic with my dad, and Sinead will answer that in a little
Hi,
bit.
Sinead. Yeah.
Um,
Hi, Sinead.
I was telepathic with my father, and to a point that I was kind of annoyed that my mother wasn't. And I assumed that families were telepathic, and I didn't find out till I was 11 that my sister couldn't read my mind the way my dad could. I mean, and I read his too, and I watched him using his abilities. Like there's a very fine line between professional expertise and psychic abilities, or using your psychic abilities, right? Have you guys watched that in other people or in
Yeah.
yourself? Yeah.
What-
And I watched my dad do that.
Yes.
But he was trained in science, and he would always say, like, no, I'm it's professional expertise, I've been doing this a long time, whatever. And he made me wrong for exploring my psychic abilities and getting better at it and all that stuff until I was like 40, at which point he said, oh yeah, my grandmother was a well-known psychic.
Oh my God.
Oh, geez.
You
That's
couldn't have
funny.
told me when like 20 years ago? Really?
Yeah.
That's
So
funny.
yes, it runs, and the for me, the contactee thing was literally because my husband was interested. Like, that is not in my family. I got the benefit of it because he was interested. And Sinead, I'm sure you've heard my origin story about them showing up in our bedroom when he was up making contact doing CE5. Right. And so that's how my contact started. And I mean, it continued, but it was very intentional, where, talking to my guides and all that just happened. Like, I didn't have to try. They just would show up and tell me stuff, usually when I was in trouble. Right? I mean, I'm pretty sure they saved my life once.
Oh yeah.
Back away from that. Okay.
Yep. Me too.
She talked to her guys all the time, like every day.
I know mine are pissed off because I don't.
Mine too, girlfriend. Mine too.
That's a good point, and I always wondered, do people that have experiences with crafts and aliens, do they also have paranormal?
Yeah.
'Cause we like both sides, but it's so sometimes it's very divided. So
Well, I had a lecture series in Southern California for years. For 10 years, I had speakers every month before it went on for 10 years, and then I stopped doing it. Eventually, I moved here to Sedona, but when I was living in Southern California, I did that. And I had a very famous paranormal researcher, Barry Taft, come speak for me at least twice, maybe 3 times, at least twice. But he would speak about paranormal fallout, is what he called it. Now we call it in the field, because of recent things over the last couple of years, the hitchhiker phenomena. But back then, 30 years ago, he was lecturing for me about paranormal fallout. And what that meant is, once you have a sighting, contact, whatever it is, anything involving ET, you start to have all this paranormal stuff happen. Like, it was that common. It was kind of just, Bob's going, yep. And so, but he lectured for me over 30 years ago about this, saying paranormal fallout. And he was very famous paranormal researcher. He made a bunch of movies about ghosts and stuff that he was famous for, like the Entity case. That was him. That was all his research. And the movie The Entity, that was his. But the paranormal fallout. So it was really common in anyone having even a sighting. And I think he kind of, if I remember correctly, postulated that it was because you were in that different paradigm, it opened up things. I mean, truth is, you guys, we're all paranormal beings. Even the third dimension, manifesting here on Earth, is a paranormal experience. This is all psychic matter. Everything is. You manifest it with your thoughts. You're manifesting your body for what you do, what you came to do here in this life. I mean, everything is a byproduct of your thoughts and consciousness.
Yeah.
And so, so when you start to have all these discussions, it gets muddied really quick because it is all consciousness. Not to be over simple, but I think it looks like people are great with these things.
Yeah,
Right. Like, and I
my reality through my beliefs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Consciousness is the singularity. It's the currency. It's the commodity. It's everything.
Sinead is asking an interesting question there. If you guys see it on the screen, does being female make for a unique contact experience in any way? And then she said, other than biological details. Well, I think that's the one uniqueness, is the biological.
Yeah.
And maybe how we experience emotions. Maybe, women do tend to think emotionally often, I admit, and so that maybe that, but definitely the biological details are a huge difference. Anyone? I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think that women are, like my husband always accuses, you're just always into the minutia. It's like, well, yeah, and you guys are all broad strokes. So absolutely, from that standpoint, if we're all into minutia, we're going to have an experience, and then, hopefully not get too analytical, but I like to really feel all of it, like the colors, the scents. What did it feel like in my body? What was it feeling like just around me? What were the thoughts going on in my head? Whereas, sorry, Bob, some dude might not ask all those questions. Right. And it's not necessarily like I'm trying to be left brain and analyze it and be clinical. It's not it. It's having a full grasp, like the nastiest thing I can do and the best thing I can do put together, make me a whole thing. So it's not one or the other. It's all of it. Like, at the same time, like, what? Okay.
I found that a lot of people from various regions in the country, like Sedona, I lived near Sedona, and I lived in Southern California, and I live in the Hudson Valley now, which is a very strong, Pine Bush is really famous for its UFO, and I don't live in Pine Bush, but I live around there, and there's a lot of like portals or whatever, like in Ohio. I lived in Ohio. There are a lot of places I think are very sensitive, to UFO encounters and experiencers and things, than other places where, I think, like, for instance, out in the Southwest, where there are, like pyramids. And when I say pyramids, I'm talking about like, geographical, geological kind of pyramids. And I think that helps, attract, ETs. I mean, that's my personal belief. I may be wrong, but
no, you're right, Carol. I think it's like here in Sedona, it's a hot spot for sightings, and these places that are these hot spots with current sightings usually have, like you said, significant geological features, magnetic field increases, and et cetera, vortex locations, so that goes hand in hand worldwide with hot spots and increased abilities. So again, that chicken or egg question, is it that's a hot spot, and that increased consciousness abilities is that causing it to be the hot spot, or is the hot spot producing that? And there's arguments you could go both ways,
Well, some of the hot spots, I don't know where you were at, Carol, in Ohio, but I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yes, and Dayton.
Okay, so I was going to say, in Southwest Ohio, we have one of the largest aquifers in the United States, which is an underground lake. And at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base,
Patterson is where the Roswell.
Yeah, and base. I'm so sorry. In Hangar 18 on base
Wright-Patterson.
Was part of the base.
Patterson.
Yep,
Wright-Patterson.
Exactly. Yeah. So the rumor is there's a 50 stories underground.
Yes.
There's an underwater river that leads to an aquifer, and that's where they hide, some crafts.
Yeah.
I would have no problem with the assumption that Wright-Patterson was built there for specific reasons because it's probably a vortex location. That's just an assumption. But knowing that everything I know about how this stuff works, I would not be surprised to learn that. I would assume that's probably the case.
Well, a friend of mine had a sighting in the 80s near the Fernald site, which is an old uranium mining facility. Uranium refinery, not mining. Sorry, it's a uranium refining facility that was used all through the Cold War.
Often, where mines are, where uranium and gold, silver, copper,
well, they need
are
that.
These hotspot areas. There's a direct connection there, and there's some. They're escaping me right now, but there are authors in the field who've specifically written about that, and there is a direct correlation.
Yeah, some people say geothermal water as well as a.
What is that?
Geothermal water. So places up in the mountains, that's why Colorado has so many, is because there's naturally occurring hot water because of geological activity.
We have some pictures from Nancy, actually. Probably tie in good. Do you know how to? He knows how to do this stuff.
Well, let's see. If I can remember where they are. Keep talking while I remember where they are.
Earlier, someone had posed a question, and by the way, thank you, Olga. I'm reading what you put down there. That's great. But and obviously we're in agreement there. But a gentleman, Tony, I think, had posed a question about childhood stuff.
Yeah.
How many people are fairly certain this happened to them as a child? And so, just raise your hand if that applies to you.
What can you repeat that? What the
gentleman had asked how many people had childhood and young adult contact, abductions, contact, whatever you're calling, you know. So I think we'll just agree on all of it. And how many people had this start for them when they were children? So I think just about everybody raised their hand. Carol.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I was started really early.
Yeah.
No contact as a kid.
Oh no, none for you.
No,
that you're aware of.
Extraterrestrial contact.
Tell us that you're aware of.
Well, that's a point. I mean, the truth is, I had beings who talked to me. Everything was telepathic. Sometimes I saw pictures, but I never saw a being.
Were you receiving information, telepathic contact as a child?
Oh, yeah.
Ding, 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 ding. Hollis, you've had this your whole life.
No, I've had abilities, but I'm not like, how do I say this? I have always assumed, and it's possible that I'm wrong, that these beings are extra-dimensional rather than extraterrestrial, right? Like higher frequency beings.
I guess for everybody for a loop here. The idea of non-human intelligence. What if, again, it's all consciousness. What if it's all the same thing? What if just like we are we physical? Yes. Are we conscious? Yes. Are we spirit? Yes. We're all that at once. What if these others are all that at once and you can have a physical interaction? Can we do, as was just described by people on here, telepathy with each other? Yeah.
Sure.
So it's like, okay, so it's like, are we able to contact each other and communicate on more than just the physical level? I think all of us would agree, yes. So it's like, how are the ETs operating any differently than we are? They're not. They're all the ways that we operate they do. Yeah. So my point being is, I think when it's a labels thing, it's what you're labeling it, but it sounds to me like you've had contact with non-human intelligence your whole life.
Before we run out of time, Nancy.
Like, yes. I don't know. I literally don't know. What I do know is I've been told about world events before they happen. That has definitely happened.
That's happened to me all of my life, where I know the major stuff way before it happens.
Nancy, tell us about your pictures.
Yeah, please. I'm interested in what's going on here.
Can you make them bigger?
Well,
I can barely see this.
Throughout my life, I've had a lot of different experiences. So each time when I would go to write them down, and I have a website, timefordisclosure.com. And so what I would do is draw a picture of the experience just as a way for me to reflect back and also to look at it and just kind of relive the whole experience. So I've had a lot of interactions and met a lot of different beings. So
Well, looks
I
like
call it raw art. I'm not an artist, but I call it raw.
That's beautiful.
Raw
And I
art.
think it looks in that picture like the gang's all here. Like
well,
what's not represented there?
Exactly.
Got
Well, the thing
Greys,
is,
reptilians, looks like
when I
gray
get on,
reptilian, Nordic. I can't
yeah,
see all of it.
when I get to craft, there are many different beings from all over. I mean, there's aquatic beings, there's interdimensionals that are about 7 or 8 foot tall that have human-like features, but they're not human. So there's many different types of beings, but there's always the grays that come to get and escort me are about 4 to 5 foot, and they're a hybrid. But then there's the tall grays that are there. And
Bob, is there any way to enlarge this so we get more than just a thumbnail?
Yeah, let me see if I can do that.
Yeah, because we're getting a thumbnail. At least I am. I'm getting a little thumbnail and then a big blurry picture.
Yeah, and that one is of an extraterrestrial city that they took me to. And it was very interesting. And that thing that you're seeing is a creature that they wanted me to meet because I found the creature offensive, and they were teaching me to not be judgmental, you know, that creature was of a dying race and it was crying out for help.
A physical experience or
astral? I have face-to-face contact. Yeah, all my life. It's face-to-face.
Oh my gosh.
Touch hands, hold. And I have one gray that's reddish brown, and she is a female, and she is bonded to me. And my oldest son has the same experiences that I have, and he has his own. We have our own, or three. They travel in threes, and I have my own 3, and it's always the same 3. And he has his own set of grays. So if they come for me, they tell me this is not about you, and they tell me to go back to sleep, and they take him. They will not let us have our experience together because of our bond, the mother-son bond. They will not let us. They do take us separately. But we're both always here.
Where do you go, Nancy? Like, do they take you to like the forest, or do they take you out of your house? Like, where do you go?
All kinds of places. I've been underwater. I've been to the moon. I've been a lot of different places. I've lived a lot of different places, and they instigated for me to go there. I lived in Australia for 5 years. I lived in Hawaii for 5 years. And every time I was sent somewhere, they were instigating, and there were reasons why they wanted me at these particular places. And the last thing that they did was back in the fall, they had my son and I go to Mexico and go up into the mountains up and meet a Zapotec indigenous tribe. And they wanted us to experience being in those woods and experiencing a dying race of the Zapotecs, who are as old as the Mayans and the Incas. And they wanted us to understand the consequences of letting technology choices and not use wisely, how it would affect humanity. And they wanted us to also go out into the forest, and they took their hands out and said, everything is alive. Everything is alive. Everything is one, and everything is connected. And they wanted me to come back and let humanity know that we'd lost our connection with all the things on our planet. Yes. And we're all dependent upon each other, and everything we do affects not only our planet and Earth and all the nature on it, but it also ripples into the universe and affects them, because we are connected to the universe. And that's why they are here. We are finally waking up and realizing the unique human beings that we are and that we are becoming. And we are going to be groomed in, or I don't like the word groomed, we are going to be assisted in becoming galactic beings of very well respected and renowned. And
Nancy, what were they doing with the machine here?
They were teaching me to breathe underwater. And why, I don't know. But they're constantly, I'm a hands-on to learn type thing. So they were wanting me to experience breathing underwater and, and being used to being in different situations and having faith in myself. And because of being human, I limit myself on what I think I can do. And they're trying to always teach me that I am my own. I limit myself. I'm capable of doing anything, just like all humans are capable of doing. many
Bob,
things.
that's actually fairly common in abduction, the breathing underwater thing. A lot of people have that experience.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, it's actually very common in the abduction.
Yeah.
At one time, it was postulated by the researchers that maybe they did that sometimes to transport a person, that there was something about, space travel and going long distances where
Yeah.
they having you in the water or suspended in way or like a gel or something was
Yeah.
something. But that's was just kind of put out there as a theory. We don't really know, but it does happen a lot, and many people, and it's kind of like a lot of abductees instantly freak out when they watch what's the movie where they're breathing underwater?
Abyss.
The Abyss. Yeah, The Abyss.
Mhm.
Exactly. Thank you. It was on the tip of my tongue. But in The Abyss, a lot of abductees kind of have a moment if they've had that experience. They watch The Abyss because when
Yeah.
they first put the helmet on him, and the first time the head guy or whatever, he has a hard time, and then he does.
Yeah.
But and they're saying just relax, and a lot of abductees have kind of a
Yeah.
little bit of a trauma reaction
Yeah.
to that. If anyone here has had that besides Nancy, or did you have that experience at first where now you were in it breathing through a tube, it looked like, but a lot of the abductees realize they have to relax, and it's like they're
I
able
had
to,
an attachment
like in the
towards my
abyss,
back
they're
that they're checking my vitals and things like that.
okay, but were you able
Yeah.
to breathe the fluid in and out like in the
Yeah.
abyss? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, that's
Yeah.
what I'm talking about. That kind of
Yeah.
thing is pretty common.
And y'all were asking, I could have answered a lot of questions and I didn't, because everybody's on their own level of understanding all this. It's a lot. It's a lot. But they showed me a vision, and the reason why I am who I am today is because I was an interdimensional, an extraterrestrial before I came to be a human being. And they showed me this vision. And so they showed me myself sitting and waiting, and then taking me and leading me to my birth mother, and me going into the human soul, my soul going in. And also, they've showed me a lot of things. And the main thing is that we are all the disclosure, not me, not in one person,
Right.
all of humanity. I'm here to assist humanity and wake you up because you all know all these things, but we've just lost our connection to a lot of this. And they're here waiting on us to wake up and
true.
realize that we are unique, wonderful human beings and have so much things that are ahead of us with the right stewardship.
When we had our major contactee experience here, where she was telepathically told what we were supposed to do, and we both felt them outside, and she took a picture of them 6 feet in front of us. They basically told us that it was time for us to get on with helping with disclosure so that other people can see stuff. Melinda, before we run out of time, please tell us about the deep underground base and stuff.
Oh, Bob, that would take a really, really long time.
Well, just give us what you can in a few minutes.
How long? How long do we have?
Why don't you do 5 minutes, and we'll do a whole show on it later.
Okay, because it's a lot. Leanne's applauding. I guess you wouldn't hear it. Okay. We have an underground base out here. There's a variety of pieces of evidence for that. Veteran researcher Tom Dongo's been researching it for years. On my tours starting on September 27th, now it may have been happening earlier, but on my tours we were normally ending at 8:30. Well, we started to have some stuff happen later. Like I happened to be out later with my clients. We were supposed to end at 8:30. They were asking me questions. Next thing I know, it's like 9 or after 9. And one of my clients says, "What's that?" And we started to see these large amber lights, by the way, everyone.
Oh, I saw that.
When you get amber, you're getting plasma. It means something is emanating such a huge amount of energy. It's ionizing the air around it. That ionization is called electrical plasma. And in the lab, plasma physicists know they've achieved plasma when they get amber light. So you get kind of gold, and then more power goes orange, more power goes red. And then it's actually a huge amount more power. It'll shift from whatever the red frequencies are to a different frequency of plasma, and then you start to get the blues, and then another that much more power again, so it's like 50 times more power, whatever I'm told by plasma physicists. Then you start to get the greens. So just know if you get a green light, something is bleeding a huge amount of energy. Blue is a little less, and red's a little less, etc. But amber, so what we were seeing were these objects coming up. First off, they were appearing in the sky like we would normally see on my tours. But then they were coming in and going behind the hills, and the hills that in the distance, that's where our underground base is. If you've been to Sedona, we have you have like what you call Bear Mountain and Coxcomb kind of in front of it, and then you have Kasner Mountain and Black Mountain way to the left. And if you keep scanning to the left, then you're talking Mingus, where Jerome is. So if you know the area, scanning those hills. But out behind Black Mountain and Kasner Mountain and Bear Mountain, you have Sycamore Canyon. Sycamore Canyon goes back for 7 miles or more, and there isn't any buildings or roads or anything. There's nothing. It's wild mountain wilderness, rugged wilderness. In the very entrance to Sycamore Canyon, near what would be the Verde River, the Verde, there's a few ranches. But once you get beyond that, it's a whole lot of nothing. And so once you get beyond those hills, when you're looking at Bear Mountain and Kasner and Black Mountain, etc., once you get beyond those, there's nothing but rugged mountain terrain. And so that is where the underground base is. Again, there's a number of different types of evidence. I could go on and on. And then there was rumored that we have Bradshaw Ranch out here. That's our equivalent of Skinwalker Ranch. Like Skinwalker Ranch in Utah, we have Bradshaw, known for a lot of paranormal stuff. The Skinwalker TV show and its popularity had a spin-off TV show called Beyond Skinwalker. And the Beyond Skinwalker show came and did 2 whole segments on Bradshaw Ranch here in Sedona. One was all about the history and the paranormal stuff going on, but the second one got all into the evidence for the underground base. And one of the things they had happen is they had an outside ground penetrating radar company come in and determine that there was a 50-foot wide tunnel going immediately under Bradshaw for like, thousands of feet. Oh, wow. That they just happened to scan. They said it went beyond that, but that was the length, a couple tens of thousands of feet or something of scanning, but it went that and beyond. And anyway, so we know that there's this 50-foot wide tunnel. Like I said, people have run-ins in the canyons with guards. We now have 4 locations that we have pinpointed. I work with a research team now. It's kind of a long story, like it's a very involved thing to get in the whole thing. But we have we know where 4 entrances are. One of them, veteran researcher Tom Dongo showed me. It sounds like it's fairly easy to get to, not far from the Cottonwood Clarkdale area, and I'll be checking that out with a group of people. The other 3 will take renting Jeeps and 4 hours going off-road. There ain't even in like ATV trails. We're going way off-road back in these canyons. But some of these people have been back in the areas, and so they know the areas. So we know this is doable. But they said, Melinda, it's going to take 4 hours by very rugged Jeep, one way, But we're going to do this and check out these 4 possible locations to the base. But going back to us on my tours, we start to see amber lights coming in the sky, doing what we call a power up, getting really big and bright, and going behind the hills down over the base area. And then we also had them coming up, and they would come up maybe initially small, but as soon as they cleared the hill, they'd do what we call a power up, get really big and bright. And the amber is so bright, like we're using military night vision to see stuff and to see this stuff coming in and coming up, but it's with your own eyes that you see the amber. So we were seeing either like orange or red with our own eyes when they would power up, and that's what's happening. And part of my research team that were on that show, if you watch Beyond Skinwalker, about Bradshaw Ranch, there was a young couple. She's a very pretty blonde, Alexandra, and a skinny guy with blonde hair, short blonde hair, and that's Jeremiah. And they're part of my team living here. Like I said, it's not my team. It's just we're all doing the research, but we decide we need to be sharing our information. So now we're kind of got an ad hoc team going on, of which Tom Dongo and them and others are involved. So and my friend Jurgen and some other people are involved. So anyway, but one of the nights I didn't know that they had gone out to Bradshaw Ranch, and I'm with my clients seeing big giant amber lights come up behind Kasner. Well, they were out at Bradshaw. They said they were coming over them, and they were really big, really low, because they're like 3 miles closer than where I am with my clients. But they said one of them, Melinda, came in really low, and as it came in out of the plasma, long story short, they had a big black triangle right over them.
Wow.
And it was a big black
Wow.
triangle craft. And then they say, so the ambers, it came closer, they could make out the detail. And next thing they know, it's a big black triangle glowing a little bit of a plasma field around it, but right over them. Now, for us at the distance away, we just saw a huge amber light. So we saw a huge amber light going over right where we would know Bradshaw to be. But they said, Melinda, it came right over them, big black triangle, and then it shot straight up like a bullet. It hovered right over him for a second or two and then shot straight up like a bullet. So that makes me wonder, are all these big amber lights we're seeing triangles? I mean, I don't know. And so we're trying to get closer to where we're seeing this stuff come up to see if we can repeat what they saw. And most of it's not coming right over Bradshaw. I've been out there, you're kind of still a distance away. They just got lucky that something came right towards them. But anyway, so there we go. So we're investigating this. It's a lot of stuff going on. It suggests, and the other thing I left out, at the same time that these things are coming in the sky, going behind the hills, coming up from behind the hills, there's a swarm of military helicopters in the air. And military jets come out 2 at a time and do a big looping pattern. And I've had current and ex-military guys and intelligence guys out with me and say, that's a patrol. They're like patrolling, looking. And then other people who've come out, again, military, current, and ex, and intelligence guys who've been with me say clearly they're securing airspace, because it's sometimes out over those hills, we counted quite often between 20 and 25 of the helicopters swarming, and there's nothing out there. There's no reason for helicopters to be out there. There's not even buildings. There's no buildings. There's no runways. There's nothing. And there's nothing for like at least 15 miles. There's nothing. And that canyon goes back, and you have Sycamore Canyon. No joke. You also have Secret Canyon, and you have Government Canyon. Those are their real names.
Wow.
It's all hiding in plain sight. But yeah, I know that exactly. So and we're seeing this activity, and we're seeing them securing airspace, just bringing in a ton of military over the area. So something's up. And then, then we're left going, now this base is known for having humans and ETs working together. So choice one is it's ET craft coming and going, and we're interacting with them. That's one. Choice two is ET craft in our possession that we have, and maybe they're training us how to fly them or something like that. And choice three is the obvious. I see Giorgio puts it on there, or maybe he didn't, but someone right before him. Sorry, Giorgio, someone right before he said something about reverse engineered technology, which is the other possibility. But you guys, if we're seeing 50 to 100 of these things come up from behind the hills every night, if we have that much reverse engineered stuff, that in itself is a huge story. Like, do we have
It's an armada.
Yeah. Do we have an armada of triangles? I mean, that would be a huge, huge story. And so we're investigating. When I have my clients out there, I'm doing my regular tour, I'm caught up with them, and we're just sticking to see this. But I'm occasionally blocking nights off to go out with researchers and stuff, and we need to do an active investigation. I have some serious big-time media interested. I have some big-time DC people interested. And so we'll see where it goes from here, because there's some serious interest. But they're all kind of saying, get evidence for the base, film these sightings. If you get some of these good sightings filmed, you start getting more of it. And if you're able to find one of the entrances to the base, then they're saying they'll come, and they got big money to do a real investigation. But meanwhile, I keep working and doing readings and stuff. It's like, when do I have the time to pursue this? And my team members, we all have different schedules. Everybody works different kinds of jobs. Just getting together with each other is difficult, but we will, and we have plans to rent Jeeps and go out there. The ground is still kind of wet. It's higher elevation, a little bit further north and whatnot. So we will pursue this. Bob, you're welcome. Lala, whatever, all you guys, people are welcome to come out here, experience this with me. And
Yeah, I do that.
if someone's serious about going out and running the Jeeps and doing that, you know, because we also feel when we go to do this, there's a safety in numbers things, you know, so we're going to have a team of people going doing this. Even when I go to the local thing, I promise, you know, Dongo and other people, I'm going to have men with me. You know? I can defend myself to a certain amount, but I'm going to have some guys and stuff because, well, I'll tell you guys one really quick story. Bob hasn't even heard this. Unless you heard me say it on a recent interview, Bob. Tom Dongo told me like 10 years ago, 2 Cottonwood cops on duty in full uniform, you know, policemen on duty, checked out some complaint. They have a few like meth labs and stuff like that around Cottonwood. I think they got a complaint on something like that. So they go out to this field and there's this door in the ground thing that they go check out. And they open this, it's open. They're on duty, you know, fully armed, everything cops, you know. They go down. It's a big fortified stairwell. They go down. They're in the 50-foot tunnel. And it goes as far as they can see in both directions. But we know from where they went down, it's only about a mile or less to one of the major entrances where we have a cement processing plant. That's on their story. But to there. But so they weren't that far from there, and they were apparently in this tunnel, and they start exploring like, what the hell's this? You know, we're cops in the local town here. What's this underground, full-on road, tunnel, lighting, signage? You know, like what the heck? And they're exploring, and then out of nowhere, I call it the goons, but the guards show up, and I got to ask Tom. Were these guys all in camouflage? Were they all black? You know, Kevlar vests, combat boots, M16s, you know, whatever. So, but they were stopped at gunpoint, and these guys were surrounded by guards who said, "How'd you get down there here?" And they were like, you know, well, 20 yards right there with the, you know, the stairwell. And they said, "Go back up. You were never here, and if you know what's good for, you know, your career and your family, you'll never tell anyone ever."
Oh,
And guys, Tom knew, and years later, the guy told Tom and took Tom and showed him where the door is. So that's how we know where that is. And apparently it's fairly easy to get to. So Tom's like, look, I'll give you, Tom's in his 80s now, but he said, I don't go do these things, but he said, I'll give you a pin drop on Google Earth. And he said, please go check this out. Because he was there 10 years ago. So he says, I want to know if it's still there.
He's coming on next week.
Tom Dongo's coming on. So right before we go, right before we go around, tell us who owns the cement factory.
Oh, well, it is, and when you enter at its gate, there's a security gate, but you don't go in that. But I went over there at night, and right next to that is a gate across a parking lot. That's their offices, and there's a big sign on a stone wall that says Martin Marietta Materials. Well, hopefully, if that goes ding, ding, ding for some of you, Martin Marietta was bought by Lockheed to give us what is now Lockheed Martin. Okay, Lockheed Martin's known for doing probably a lot of the heavy lifting on the reverse engineering program. There's a lot of information to suggest that. Multiple pieces of evidence from different angles clearly state that and suggest that, even to, right, Bob, the president of Lockheed Martin making bold statements about we now have the technology to take ET home and, you know, all those things. So all this kind of stuff. So there's multiple, and then Mark McCandlish, his friend going there and seeing the craft at Lockheed Martin parked in a hangar that he was given a tour of, you know, so there's a lot of evidence. There's others too, but I just gave some big ones to Lockheed Martin. And of course, you know, Tom Dongo being asked to go to the barbecue there and, you know, that whole story. So you go, okay, there's a connection to the stuff in Lockheed Martin. Well, so Lockheed bought Martin Marietta Materials from Glenn Martin because Martin Marietta Materials mined aluminum, and they wanted to be in charge of their own processing of aluminum for building all their aircraft. And that's mainstream, nothing alternative there, you know, but maybe alternative stuff too, but for building. Okay. Well, Martin Marietta Materials owns all these quarries. I've done all this research now that they own all these quarries, and they own this quarry here. So I went and saw the sign, took photos of it. Boom. Then I had heard through the grapevine that Lockheed Martin still own a percentage of Martin Marietta Materials in the quarries. Anyways, long story short, I did the research. There was a Washington Post article in the financial section of the Washington Post in 1996 saying Lockheed Martin still owned 81% of Martin Marietta Materials. So Now, we have a lot of evidence suggesting that 50-foot tunnel, which is big enough for two semis to pass each other, that 50-foot tunnel goes right to that cement processing plant. So if in fact that's there, and I mean, there's extensive evidence, and now we have the evidence that Lockheed Martin might own 81% of Martin Materials, then you're going, that tunnel entrance is owned by Lockheed Martin. And what do they do at Martin Materials? But they it's a cement processing plant. They dig up the gypsum and the basalt, and everything. What else do they need for cement? Gypsum and lye, and I forget what else. But they dig up that stuff, and that's what they're known for. And you go, well, what do you need to build an underground base? Lots of cement. It's like 1,000% cement, right? So you go, okay, obviously, and limestone, cement, gypsum, all that stuff. So and so how convenient. And then of course it makes me then wonder how many of these other Martin Materials facilities happen to be entrances to the bases. I'm like, so Lockheed Martin owns Martin Materials, which is where the tunnel entrance is.
Thank you.
All right, in the last 5 minutes, starting with Nancy, why don't you tell people where they can contact you and what kind of things you're willing to do with people? Promotion-wise.
Yes. Well, I have the Facebook group, Time for Disclosure. We've never been alone. We are the disclosure. And then I have my website, timefordisclosure.com. And I'm doing a lot of podcasts. I'm also going to start speaking at some conventions and things like that. And I'm in the process of writing a book as well. So we'll just see. I'll just play it by ear. Nothing's set in stone. I'll just go with the flow.
Thank you.
Leanne?
Who?
There you go. I had to unmute myself. I can be found under Lady Leanne on YouTube and on Spotify. I think pretty much all the platforms. I've got 2 singles out right now. I've got a 3rd ready to go. And I'm just doing my art. I don't have it up online, but if anybody wants to buy it, you can find me through my Facebook too, under Leanne Curtis. And I guess that's
and put some thumbnail samples online so people can look at it.
Well, there are my thumbnails.
Yeah, but I mean, to sell it, you need to have a purchase online.
I'm so bad. See, this is what happens when you're an only child and an actress. It's like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to have an agent do all that so that I can just self-promotion is just not. It's something that I have to learn how to do better. Okay, Melinda's turn.
You crack me up. I love it, though. I love it.
Okay.
So I do readings for people, a lot of relationship stuff, a lot of business stuff. I do have a Harvard MBA as well as an engineering degree from Princeton. So, best way to reach me actually is send me a message on Facebook Messenger. I have a website, 888-4, and that's the number 4-hollis.com. But I won't, the email on that thing is totally screwed up. I'm not sure how to fix it. That's how that goes. So if you're interested in reading, if you're interested in, the extraterrestrial stuff, really, it's my husband's website, etletstalk.com.
So, I know that website. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And Laura. I help, he sends me stuff. Anyway.
Thank you.
Laura.
You can find me on Facebook, Laura Mormon. My current project is the Citizen Observers for UFO Transparency, and we're hoping to get a website up and running where you can reach out to your congressman and ask them where they stand on UFO transparency in the wake of the. Thank you so much, Melinda. That actually means so much to me. My 2 great passions in life are the UFO phenomenon and, the contactee phenomenon and politics. I'm a political consultant for the past 13 years.
Wow.
So now I've got like all these amazing political tools, and now is the time for UFO transparency. So I'm hoping to launch.
Laura, offer your help to Daniel Sheehan.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
I wish.
I'll help. I'll make that happen for you.
That would be.
I'll make that happen. Contact me. I'll help you with that.
Oh yeah.
That would be-
I mean, he's got a lot of work to do with the new institute.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just a person in my basement, but you know, all great political movements start with people in their basement.
Right. I'll put you in touch with him if you want to be in touch with him, because he's got his office now in DC and he's doing all sorts of stuff. And, you know, if you're willing to help or volunteer, or maybe he's even got money to pay somebody.
I would love that. And thank you so much. I will definitely reach out to you. Thank you, Melinda.
Sure.
Carol, what's going on?
Well, I'm basically trying to ascend my life and find a better purpose now that I'm retired from what I did in the past. And I mean, people can reach out to me on message. Facebook is the best way because I don't do email so well. I don't navigate too well with email and stuff. So if they want to call Carol Bradshaw, and that's on Facebook, that's fine. And I'm very interested in, you know, getting more information about this extraterrestrial. And I guess there's going to be a Project Bluebeam happening in April. And, you know, I'm interested in all the data that I've been, you know, reading about this past year, because I really never, even though I've experienced this my lifetime, I never really looked into it. I just thought it was just like a normal thing that happened to me. I know it's crazy, but you know,
I love that. It's just a normal thing that happened to me. I love it.
Well, I think that some people just experience things differently than others. And, you know, I do astrology charts, and I like astrology, but that was something I've been doing since 13. I've been doing psychic readings and astrology. So if somebody wants, you know, I would do it for free. I just, you know, I'm pretty much retired and just enjoying myself now. And, you know, looking to experience something different now in my late phase in life.
Melinda, tell everybody all the ways to get in touch with you.
Yeah.
Oh, here in Sedona, Arizona, through the Center for the New Age. You can always reach me through the Center for the New Age. And then I'm UFO Sighting Tours with an S on the end.com. So UFOsightingtours.com, Center for the New Age. I'm on X. I'm on Twitter. Both. Well, X has a handle, but if you look up Melinda Leslie, you'll find me. You know, so Melinda Leslie and Twitter, Messenger, same thing. Best way to reach me is good old fashioned pick up the phone and call me. Text and calls, I tend to get. Bob knows I reply to those mostly. And there you go. And I do my tours, I do readings. I've said before, I'm going to be doing more going forward eventually with contactee rights, experiencer, contactee, abductee, all the definitions, but their rights and protections as we go forward with disclosure. So I could see all you guys being involved in that for sure. So
thank you guys so much for coming. This was really, really wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much for inviting.
Yes.
It was so much fun. Thank you.
And now I'm kicking y'all out. So.
See ya.
Bye.
Peace, everyone.